Welcome back to the third series of Critical Media. Last class, we talked about the nature of copies, Instagram, and hashtag culture, as well as the transition from a criteria-centric to a resource-centric system evidenced by Google search, don't sort logic. This week, we will learn about some of the implications that come out from those transitions. We start with the premise that information is so vast that it is no longer comprehensible in the same way as traditional scholarship was once categorized. Libraries are a great institution that holds massive collections of information. As we all know, libraries hold collections of books, journals, news articles, and images under very specified systems of bibliographic control. There is often a system of hierarchy that allows us to follow a call number to search and find identified scholarship. This system of order is very different from the search culture that we see today in social media. In social media, everyone can be part of material creation. Thus, there is a weaker distinction between the maker and audience. The author can also become a follower of a different feed very easily. There is no single standard of quality and no universal paradigm in social media. An intelligence of the mass began to appear with social media. And this fragmentation of hierarchy and centrality has existed in the past since the 1960s, but the vastness and accessibility of digital technology has made the changes more visible. One major shift in the 60s and 70s was the invention of the cell phone. In April 1973, Martin Cooper, who was a researcher and executive director at Motorola, produced the first mobile phone. A phone call was made in Midtown Manhattan to Motorola's rival, Joel Engel, head of research at Bell Labs in New Jersey. This marked a shift in history. Now, conversations could take place in the middle of the street in Manhattan in transit. Of course, it took generations of cell phones to get to where we are today. Each development was a step closer towards enabling flexibility in communication. Phones got lighter, smaller, and held more gadgets and apps that enabled faster and easier communication. Another major shift was in the 60s. Before then, in the earlier 20th century, opera was well regarded as something that embodied high social status as an extension of European high culture. Because many countries in Europe, class was hereditary, inherited by birthright, engagement in these high-class activities validated the upper class and provided a symbolic ladder for those who wanted to become part of that higher class. However, when the Great Depression hit in the U.S. in 1929 to 1939, there became a significant lack of connection with the economic and social problems of the working classes. The socially classifying systems no longer applied. People lost their status and cultural norms were greatly shifted. Today, matter has gotten allocated to platforms of preference. There is little distinction on whether someone likes opera, EDM, jazz, or hip-hop. Although these musical types once represented different social class types, now it has more to do with an individual's preference. There is a reliance on subjectivity. And as interests change, people engage in different activities. Henry Jenkins aptly describes the new communities that form today through voluntary, temporary, and tactical affiliations. There is a mutual exchange of knowledge that builds collective intelligence. Pierre Levy describes collective intelligence as something that is innate in man. Cognitive processes at the scale of society has always operated in herds. For example, environments are shaped through local contextualities, the affiliations and cohorts that are formed by what town or city you are from, what school you attended, and where you work. Our environment shapes our contexts, communities, local memories, and experiences. Similarly, the digital collective memory is shaped by different frames, perspectives, and orientations by its vast user network. We are familiar with Uber and Lyft that leverages the transportation network to connect drivers to riders. Platforms that collect and disseminate knowledge like Wikipedia, iBooks, as well as platforms that provide online learning tools and courses to the public like edX and LinkedIn Learning. And of course, platforms that provide exchange of goods like eBay, Etsy, and Amazon, which all rely on a massive user base. When different providers are paired up, like Amazon's merger with Whole Food, it creates a synergistic effect. There are many more examples around us that relies on a massive user base online to provide its services. Henry Jenkins talks about the participatory web in his TED Talk. Take a peek at what he has to say, and to switch things up, comment directly below in YouTube. Following this week, we will migrate course lecture videos to YouTube so that you guys can access the videos more easily. Please make comments directly below on YouTube. Last but not least, thanks for all of your suggestions on the class hashtag. Here's a list of all the hashtags suggested. Out of the hashtags proposed, the ones highlighted in bold were seconded. Given that the majority chose critical media as a hashtag, we will give some differentiation and use critical media BAC as our class tag. So whenever you see something that relates to our class discussion, hashtag critical media BAC to share what you're exploring. Well, that's it for the week. Thanks for watching, and I'll return with another set of videos in the next couple of weeks.